Good. I have it in big red letters here. Hit record. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's Business Leader Roundtable. A bit of housekeeping to start. If you can keep your cameras on, that would be fantastic. Treat today as if you're in a live room. If you're not speaking, can you just mute yourself so you don't get background noise? And we are going to move through quite quickly. We will finish by 10 o'clock. As this is also a networking opportunity, just put in the chat name, rank, serial number, what you do, who you do it for. And then at the end of today, you can save the chat by hitting the three buttons on the right-hand side, and you can save the chat. I'll also endeavor to just send it out with the recording as well, so that you have everybody's contact details. A lot of people have done direct and indirect business through here, so that it's a really worthwhile thing to do. And so I will kick that off by putting this into the chat. So that's basically it. Go away. Okay, all right. So let's start with a set of introductions. I'm going to start with people on my screen. Let's move. So Michael Toskalaris, let's start with you.
Hi, everyone. Michael Sakalis, Managing Director of Synergistics Australia. We provide operations improvement, operations management solutions to our clients who are predominantly in the industrial sector, asset-intensive industries, mining, mineral processing, utilities. So that's the type of consulting services we provide. What else, Rashid?
Who would be a good referral source for you?
A good referral would be a client who's doing some sort of a transformation program, digital transformation or business transformation in our industry, in mining, mineral processing, coal seam gas, oil and gas, that type of thing.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. John Sutton.
Good morning, John Sutton, Sutton IT Management. So we connect clients with their data. So we actually do Power BI and Power Apps. So the digital transformation for businesses under 200 people seem to find that a lot of consultants just stop at that number. So we work with clients who need to connect all their data. So they might be doing repetitive tasks because different pieces of information don't talk to each other. So we add that extra little piece so they can get greater functionality.
Excellent. Thank you. Wilson.
Hey guys, my name is Wilson. I'm the Managing Director of White Tower Digital. We're a digital agency focusing on process automation and marketing optimization. So we look at how we can make businesses more efficient using to improve efficiencies in your business through process automation and making systems talk to each other. And we also look at how we can optimize your marketing strategies and campaigns.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah,
sorry, go on.
Sorry. Yeah. What I'm looking for from here is just to meet people and just learn new things. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Michael, I'm presuming your Clarity.
Hi, Michael Flaherty, Apple Solutions. So we assist people with transformation of mobile phone applications so we can transfer their clients from desktop to mobile.
Excellent. And welcome. First time here.
Yeah. Our clientele that we look for is basically anybody with a heartbeat in a business and a website. So
Okay.
we'll deal with anybody. So yeah, they're very cost-effective solutions nowadays due to the fact that we've already built the back-end system. So it's really just a digital transformation of their website. Okay. So if anybody needs any assistance, feel free to hit us up.
Okay.
We have offices in Australia, USA, and India.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Peter.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, Peter from GradSift. So GradSift is software as a service for large employers who recruit university graduates. It basically uses AI to instantly screen and rank candidates for employers to shorten the whole recruitment process and make some great hires. Excellent.
Thanks, Peter. Kyle, how are you going?
I'm going exceptionally well, Rashid. Ericom, we're a UC contact center house. We're a mobile MDM or connected workplace house. We have a corrections marketplace. We have an IT managed service business, and we have a healthcare IoT business that's just going through the roof. So growing, enjoying life, and my most recent asset that I've added is a family farm. So I just went and bought a farm. Love it.
Excellent. So those 14 weeks of holiday you get a year, you're going to extend, right?
I've got to find extra time to mow some grass now. God, I've never seen so much grass in my life. It keeps raining. Then the sun comes out.
Yeah, that's the irony of grass, isn't it? Lisa, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Rashid. I'm Lisa Sheldon from Blue Ridge Tax Accounting. I'm a tax advisor that does practical advice and solutions in a non-legal way, because I'm not a lawyer, so it's very understandable to business owners. I work a lot with small and medium business and also high net wealths. And to Kyle's point, you wouldn't believe how many of my clients run successful businesses and have a farm on the side, and it all works beautifully for tax purposes. Feel free to reach out for any questions.
Thank you. Alex Harding.
Morning, I'm Alex Harding of Dataphoria. We provide marketing leads to our clients, marketing lists, profiling analytics. So if somebody wants to understand who their customers are or to gain more customers, then that's what we do. The sort of organizations we like to work with are companies that have, I guess, a requirement for lots and lots and lots of new customers, normally in the consumer space, so charities, energy sector, health sector. And we provide leads through that we source digitally or on the telephone, normally through to a call center, and they close them. What I'm looking to gain from today is just more of the same, really. Rashid, I really enjoy the fact that you bring this group together, and that despite the fact that we're not really necessarily organizations that want to sell to each other, you often find there's synergies in terms of the sort of challenges we face. We discussed last time, having to step back into working in a business, and when you think you're out of it and realizing there's lack of skills, that sort of thing. So I really enjoy the discussion around how people solve working in the business / working on the business challenges.
Excellent. Thanks, Alex. Nathan, good to see you, mate.
Morning. Thank you, Rashid. Thanks for having me as well. Look, morning, everyone. My name's Nathan. I'm the founder of Stanfield IT. We provide IT, managed services and cybersecurity services to really businesses up to 200, I guess, employees. Look, a good company for us to work with, I guess, is someone who's had a recent cybersecurity incident. We can help them out and get them sorted out. So thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Thanks for being here. Frank, good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Frank Capillari, MD, Phase Pacific. We supply solutions that secure software applications during the development cycle and then post that in production, as well as a range of test automation solutions for testing applications and building automated test environments in labs, and a range of network test equipment as well. Our customers typically mid to large enterprise, pardon me, as well as government organizations and defense.
Thanks, Frank. Nicola.
Thanks, Rashid. Hi, I'm Nicola Steele, up in a very humid Brisbane at the moment. I thought it was supposed to be autumn. Anyway, so my business is JJP Talent Solutions, which is an IT recruitment business. My specialism is software engineering teams, but obviously I'll help build in terms of business analysts, project managers, etc., etc. In terms of the type of clients that I enjoy working with, are tech startups and scale-ups and SMEs. And I particularly love working with companies that are developing tech that is good for people or planet, so that are making social change or successfully impactful, positively impactful on climate change. The reason I'm here is I think it's great to have all these different conversations, meet new people, but also get new ideas as well, that quite often can answer a problem that you've been trying to solve, but just not being able to, and hearing other people's stories is great. I love Kyle's got a farm. I grew up on a farm, So, and it's a wonderful lifestyle. So, welcome.
You can come milk the cow, okay, every day.
My father's was a beef farm, but I'm handy around cows, so that's fine. Anyway, I shall be quiet. Thank you.
Is this where we say, Carl, what's the name of the cow? Is it Daisy?
No, I have June, April, May, August, all right? And people go, why? You give them months, because that's the months we could have steak on the table.
Okay, do they know this?
No, but it's just what happens on a farm.
Well, this reminds us of a friend who moved from Australia to Switzerland, and they moved onto a sort of semi-acreage, and they had some, I think they had some sheep, didn't they? And they said to the kids, look, these sheep are going to be eaten at one point. So, you know, one's called lamb chops, one's called something else. And I thought,
I think it was sausage or something.
Anyway, Stephen, good morning.
Morning, everyone. How is everyone this wonderful morning? Unfortunately, I was up late last night, so I'm going to be a little bit all over the place. But I run a small boutique IT company focusing on cyber awareness training and compliance for small to medium business, up to about 50 seats. We do have our traditional IT business, but our main focus is trying to get everyone to a point where they can be confident that when they open up their computer, their staff are trained and able to notify of any instances which appear to be iffy, let's say. It's nice to see everyone. A few faces I've met in the past and over time. So hello, everyone, and look forward to hearing what everyone has to say today.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Stephen. And obviously all of you know Barbara, who is my wife and business partner, who keeps the wheels turning. As to me, if you don't know me, I think, Michael, we've never actually spoken. I am a business mentor and a strategist who works with owners of mainly technical companies, run a better business and have a better life. Our sweet spot is working with owners, so ranging between 5 and say about 100 people who want to move from working in the business to on and then beyond the business. Beyond the business means that basically you can, be independent of the business should you want to be, which gives you a couple of choices. You can work in the business doing stuff you like. You can step out completely, use it as an investment vehicle that just keeps, producing money, hopefully, or you could sell it unencumbered for a much higher valuation. Right now, one of the major programs we offer is a business, better business, better life program where we work with business owners to go through that transition. So if any of you are either interested in having a further conversation about that, or could certainly refer us on to other people that could be in your network, I would certainly appreciate it. All right, on to today's topic. And I thought we'd still stay with the topic of acquisition, because right now we're looking at possibly a difficult economy for some people, depending on who you listen to, the way interest rates are going, people are pulling their heads in. And so I thought we'd talk about how we can still keep business coming in the door, especially if you don't have a large sales force. Now, Kyle over here is the outlier. He's got what, 26 people? Well, salespeople?
Yeah, 26 salespeople, 8 account managers. Yep.
Yeah. So most of us don't have that sort of level of scale. And most of us have to do our lead generation, our sales, our acquisition ourselves. And so I thought we'd just talk about today and open it up to what mechanisms can we all use to get in front of the right prospects. And there are two aspects to this. One aspect of getting in front of the right people is positioning. And positioning I would define as if two people are talking about a particular problem and one of them knows you, they will bring you up as a possible person that could solve that problem. So that is positioning. But that is really, that does take time, and that takes reputation, etc. But if you want to really grow your business, you've got to be like Kyle, and you've got to really have either first yourself go out there and bring in business actively. So that's outbound rather than inbound, which is waiting for people to call you. So you have to have a mechanism for positioning yourself, and then you have to have a mechanism for actually getting out there and talking to people. So I thought, given that all of us are in some form of B2B, LinkedIn is an obvious choice. It's not the only choice, obviously, but it is an obvious choice. So I'd like to just open up and say, okay, what are the issues that you're seeing with LinkedIn? And I'll point out some that I'm seeing or how it's changing. So anybody want to start with, how are you using LinkedIn yourself to position yourself and then to actively reach out to people in your possible target market and then start a conversation with these people? And then after that, I want to just talk about something that Barbara and I watched yesterday from Columbia University on storytelling, which I thought was really, really, really interesting when it comes to persuasion. So anybody want to start? Yep,
sure.
Alex.
Start. Something I used to do annually was within the privacy settings within LinkedIn, you're actually able to download into Excel all of your contacts. So because I've worked in a similar industry since 2002 in Australia, luckily I've got several thousand contacts in LinkedIn. And what you can do is you can actually download that into Excel, and then you can sort it in various ways. So I sort it by business name, and I just go through once a year and I look for business names I'm interested in and find out who's moved to those organizations. So most of our work comes from referral. We position ourselves well. We've grown very fast in the past because of referrals. But we also find that a lot of the time it's basically a previous client that's moved to a new role. Something I found in LinkedIn the other day, which is pretty cool, is that now if you have LinkedIn Premium, which I do, you can actually go into your contacts and there's actually a page which is effectively a trigger to show anyone that's moved into a new organization. So it only goes back about a week, unfortunately. But if you made a regular note to do that week on week, then you can actually see people that you already know that are in a new role that you can reach out, congratulate on being in that role, and then make a note to maybe give them a contact in a month or two and say you'd love to find out more about what they're up to at the moment. So I find that for the organization that we are, and I'm sure a lot of you find the same, you need an enormous amount of trust to basically, for us, we have to ask someone, give us all your customer data, tell us all your marketing problems, and don't worry, we'll solve them. Pretty hard to do that on a cold call or reaching out and cold on LinkedIn, because everyone says they can do it, but unless they actually know you can do it, it's very unlikely, unless it's been referred by a third party or they know you. So yeah, the main way I'm using LinkedIn is actually effectively finding out people that are moving to new roles. The only other thing I do sometimes, I look at clients of ours that are tremendously good champions, and when they don't have their LinkedIn contacts closed, I might go through their contacts and have a look and find anyone that I'm really interested in and reach out and then actually specifically ask and say, you know, I've been wanting to deal with that person, that organization for a very long time. I'd love to find out more about them. Would you mind introducing the two of us? And again, those introductions go really well. So that I guess is a bit of a combination of positioning and active selling, but it's strategically based on trying to sniper rifle, so to speak, go after very specific people rather than scattergun approach.
The thing that really annoyed me about LinkedIn, and it's changed over time, was then when you export all your contacts, it just gives you the name and the business name, and it doesn't give you the LinkedIn URL anymore. And it certainly doesn't give you, well, very rarely does it give you an email address. And even that email address is going to be a Gmail address, which is pretty much useless.
Well, one of the things we used to do when you could actually download the email addresses, which are normally people's personal email addresses, because of when they change roles. Because I had so many contacts, I actually got all my team to download their contacts and their emails. We created a centralized database of those and uploaded it as a custom audience into Facebook, and then just ran display ads. So it kept us front of mind for all of our contacts in a different medium. And we found that, you know, again, you found that people would, in the same way as when we run retargeting, people would just notice you more and think about you, because a big part of sales is being front of mind, not having to sell all the time, but just people remembering what you do and then it triggering a thought.
Actually, that's a really good idea. I hadn't thought of that one. You know, using the personal email as a trigger in Facebook for display ads.
So Rashid, what we do is we automate our outbound campaign on LinkedIn through Phantom Buster. So what Phantom Buster does, it allows you to put a URL and does inadvertently a scrape of whatever topic or people you're looking for, and then auto connects with them. And then we put them through a funnel of email internally in order to connect with them. And once we connect with them, we invite them for a one-on-one session where it's 15 minutes. You pitch your business to me, I pitch my business to you. and we see if we've got any synergy that goes well.
Okay.
Normally we find that works quite well because it's just an introduction. It's 15 minutes. We tell them you only have 7.5 minutes to tell us what you do. If within 7.5 minutes, we'll can you because we go first. So once they hit 7 minutes, we just say, hey, listen, you've only got 30 seconds left. You better wrap this up, and we're moving. And we found that Australian LinkedIn is changing with regards to the dynamics, because in America, when we have great success. In Australia, LinkedIn has a different feel for the Australian market, because sometimes it's more of a, you've got to be on it in order to post your resume of what you've done, who you are, and where you're going. Whereas in America, it's more transactional based with regards to the people you meet there that are actually looking for more business through LinkedIn, as opposed to the Australian clientele. And we find that with our Indian clients as well, like some of the banks that we deal with. So it really depends. Like it's almost a community that's not like transacting much. And we find that we have better. So if you use automation and you're a small business, it's a lot easier. You can set it up. You can set up 4 or 5 different automations, and then you can test out different verticals that you may not be familiar with, or you don't want to allocate the time to. So you can say have an hour's worth of outbound campaigns with 3 or 4 different verticals that you may not have touched before, just to see whether your product can be receptive. And what we sometimes found is that the people that we thought may not be our clients potentially turned out to be our clients. And then that allowed us for them to actually get different referrals back in from them. Also, what we found is that when we take on a client, we actually advise them that if we can deliver them a service, that they have a commitment to us, that if we provide them excellent service, that they should refer to us. And if they don't refer to us, well, if our business goes down, theoretically, the service we give them will go down with us. So they have a vested interest in supporting us like we have supporting them. And we do quite a lot of referral networking out, where we invite people to come and discuss, understand what each business is about, and then just cross promote. But with LinkedIn, it's all automated because nobody's got time to go through all that stuff. A lot of the stuff in Australia, depending on the algorithms that you have with your LinkedIn where you're based, will just give you not the best data that's available. And we find that here time and time. That's why people get Gmail accounts, they get all the RAM. So what you generally find is you'll source the big fish from there, and then you'll try and hunt them in different areas, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok to an extent, depending on who your clientele are. But a lot of people are going to the Rumbles. So you collect it, then you do your social listening tools. If you don't have any, well, that's another area that you're going to have to look at. But you automate that entire process so you become front and center, like the other gentleman said. But it's not hard to automate it. It's Phantom Buster is like $50 a month or $100 a month.
What's it called, Michael?
Like Phantom Buster.
PHANTOM.
Yeah, Buster. It's about $99 a month, I think. And if you do it properly and you set up 3 or 4 or 5 different Phantoms, bearing in mind that's not an endorsement of their product, that's just who we've used in order to do what we've done with them, and we find it works pretty well. And it's all about getting software to work for you, so you've got more time to do what you actually do, which is sell. So if you've got an email outbound campaign that you've linked to your Phantom Buster to extract data, then that all of a sudden can free up 20 to 30 hours a week, because that's automated and going. But there's a lot of those things that you need to be doing. I mean, yeah, you've got to automate as much as you can just to compete with people as cost effective as possible.
I was just going to say the same thing as Michael, that I'm just one person and a VA, and I've got 2 sets of clientele, clients and candidates. So automation is totally my friend, because I can't reach out to that number of people and cover Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. So I use something called Dripify, Drip, DRIPIFY. And I use the mid-range one, which I think is called Pro, and that's 132 Aussie dollars a month. But I found that great, that you can set up campaigns, put in sequences, so you've got follow-up messages as well. And people, as probably most of you know, people don't generally respond on the first message. They might accept your connection request, but not reply to the message. So then there's another follow-up message, and then another one. You can send as many as you like, but I think if you send any more than 3, you start becoming a nuisance. And I've found that really effective using Dripify. It's definitely worth that relatively high monthly charge in terms of return on investment. So I think automation's great.
Okay, so my question then is, how do you avoid LinkedIn doesn't, it's against their terms of service. I mean, we all use automation to a certain degree. How do you make sure that you stay under that piece of radar?
Because it's not scraping information from, like, for example, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but where you use a Chrome extension, you don't use a Chrome extension with this. What you're doing is basically doing your search string of your ideal client in a particular area, etc. You put that into Dripify, it creates a campaign. The only danger with that is if that search string is only as good as the information that you've put in it. So the first time I did it, it sent messages to people that I was already working with, and it looked really weird. So I just had to say, oh, sorry, blonde moment. I meant to send it to a different mic or something along those lines, and at least kind of acknowledge that it was my mistake. So there is that danger there. But I just learned that you've got to be more specific with your search string, and just take people out of that campaign that you don't want in it. So it's that one-to-many, but you've got to be careful with one-to-many, because that many might not be your target audience at some of the people in that search string. So you just got to manage that properly. But yeah, automation, as I've forgotten his name. The South African guy said it is Michael. There he is. I can't see him. Sorry, I can't see him. There he is. Oh, he's on the street. But anyway, Michael.
He jumped in the car. So good.
Oh, he's in. Oh, yeah. Hi, Michael. He's changed now.
School. Yeah.
Oh,
no, okay. I've got to go to school to drop the kids off. So I'm still listening. I'm still here. It's just I'll be 10 minutes. It's up the road and back. So no, definitely, I've still got my fatherly responsibilities. I've got 5 children.
Oh, so my husband just took my daughter. But anyway, as Michael said, automation is your friend. Good dad.
Are you using like personal messages in your automation, or more of like a lead magnet or something like that to attract them?
That's a really good.
Yeah. Initially, I use like a general, like, hey, how you going? You'll get 100 of these from different person. I think we can work together. And then the second one that I do is generally personal.
Okay, sorry, Nicola, you were saying.
I was just saying that the ideal situation is a personal message to each one. But if you've got a large number of people you've got want to approach, that's difficult. So I think you need to do it on a case-by-case basis. If there's somebody that that is your ideal client, you got to take the time to craft a more personalized message about them. But with Dripify, you can set up, hi, Wilson, refer to their company, refer to their role name. It's got that automation capability in there. But if you want to write something like, oh, I can see that you worked with Kyle at wherever, then obviously Dripify hasn't got that kind of capability to do that.
Okay. So, all right. Thanks, Nicole. So here's the thing. Okay. So in the old days, it might take 3, 4, 5 contacts, maybe 7 contacts to get through to somebody. Today, it's probably likely to take 15, 20, 25 contacts. So
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it depends if they need your services. If they need your services, they'll talk to you. If they don't, then you could send them 100 and they'll still ignore you. Like people ghost you, they think it's just normal.
That's true. Okay, so let me put it this way. Okay, so at any one time, maybe there's 1, maybe 2, maybe 3% of the market that could be doing something. Whether they do it with you or somebody else doesn't really matter, but they are ready to do something. Okay, but that still leaves 97% thereabouts who are somewhere. Some of them will never do anything. Let's face it. But basically, there is a percentage of people who need to be nurtured, talked to over time, If I look at our own history, I think the longest somebody was on our list the first time we met them, when we invited them to a seminar, to they becoming a client, was 10 years. Now, over those 10 years, I had regular conversations with them. I'm just going to mute everybody. There's a bit of background noise here. There was regular conversation with them, and then, you know, they were on our newsletter list, which, you know, they'd read for years. And, you know, what happens is I see people in networking functions and they'll say, oh, you know, I know who you are, I read your newsletter list. And the next thing they say is, I don't read all of them, but I do save them. Okay, and I said, that's fantastic. Okay. It's more about having your name in front of them so that when they are ready to do something, they call you, or you happen to have that conversation on one of your outreach calls, and they say, hey, listen, you know, something that you said triggered. And so it is a matter of constantly being in front of people, and it's that outbound activity that I think a lot of people don't do. Anybody want to call?
So Rashida, can I offer some ideas, if you don't mind, to help out? So the answer to the question is, you've got to be doing everything, all right? And the answer and the thing that you need to do, in my opinion, is you need to measure what it is that you do. So, you know, I'll make you laugh. I make my salespeople have cups of coffee, which in other words is face-to-face, all right? Now, the interesting thing is that when you measure cups of coffee, how many cups of coffee you have with somebody you don't know, the 10 people you have a cup of coffee with, I can nearly say to you that 20% to 30% of those will end up being what I'll call a suspect or a prospect. Your conversion rate, once you get them to that area, is in the 50 to 60% when you do it that way, all right? And this is a tried, proven method since the Egyptians, okay? You know, when they come and show you and all that sort of stuff. With the social media and that sort of stuff, which you need to be doing as well, and every other form of marketing that's out there, again, you need to measure it, because you need those 1,000 emails, or you need the 500 likes on LinkedIn, and you need to be able to measure how many of those then can, but the conversion rate that comes from, say, from LinkedIn to an actual opportunity is far less. All right, so so what it means is that as you do the automated process, so it costs you less and you get less return. So that's why you need to be doing your LinkedIn, your email campaign, your cup of coffee campaign, your 3 or 4 round tables like this that you do, the other things that you do, because each one of those has a different success rate, and no one works better than the other. The fact is that you need to do them all and measure for your particular industry. You measure it doing so. Sometimes, believe it or not, the best source of a prospect is to go and look at somebody's statements. If you're in HR, or if you're in legal, or if you're in whatever, go and look at some of their statements on their web page, and all of a sudden you've got an automatic conversation going on by your own research of what sort of companies would you like to deal with. If you want to deal with Coca-Cola, go and look at their web page, go and look where the weaknesses are, and then give them a phone call and say, hey. And you'd be surprised when you decide who you want to target to, which is what we do. We decide what industries we want to talk to, all right? And we then build our language, we build our communication style, both LinkedIn and direct, such that we're targeting, say, if you want to target the trucking industry, you've got to know what to talk about when you go to the trucking industry, for instance, versus going to medical, versus going to government. So my advice to you is to measure, right, and work out what your DNA is, and then all of a sudden you've got a really good picture of what your ability to market your business as a whole looks like, whether it's a single person, or in our case, a bucket load of people out there doing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for each industry, you could say that you need to know, what you do, what you solve, and what those pain points are that you could solve with what you do.
Yeah, and like I said, and it's easy when you know what your product does with gaps, with like Elizabeth Stephen with the gaps for training and all that sort of stuff for HR, for cybersecurity. I'll ring him tomorrow because I'm using another company, but so he's going to get a lead out of this particular environment because it's face to face, and the conversion rate will be extremely high because I've now met the guy, so to speak. All right. So well done, Sue. So these sort of round tables and all that sort of stuff, face to face has always got the highest conversion rate, but it's also the worst thing to do because of the fear of rejection, the time it takes. Yeah, I was talking to one of my sales reps yesterday who I was counselling, right? And he liked coming to the office every day. And I said, "Why do you come to the office every day?" "Oh, I like the culture. I like this." I said, "No, bullshit. You like listen to the radio for an hour and 10 minutes. I said, "Let me guess which radio. You listen to 2GB, don't you?" He said, "Yes, I do, Carl." So that's why you come to the office every single day, because you spend an hour and a half listening to 2GB. I'd rather have you at home doing some work on those days rather than listening to 2GB. And by the way, he then gets to listen to 2GB on the way home. All right. And phone calls are interruptions to his time listening to 2GB. He laughed at me, obviously. He said, "Paige, it's not true." I said, "Yes, it is. Don't lie to me. I've done it." All right. So the whole remorse or being able to put yourself out there, it's not an easy thing to do. The easiest thing you can do when it comes to what I call professional, getting on the phone and wanting to talk to somebody, the Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock, reward yourself with a beer. And what you do, or a glass of wine, you sit down at 4 o'clock and say, "I'm going to make 10 phone calls to people I don't know every Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. And my reward when I finish it, because you may talk to some idiots or you might talk to some really nice people, is to give yourself a beer or a glass of wine. And you do that every single Friday. And let me tell you, you'd be surprised how many new contacts that you make by simply making 10 phone calls on a Friday afternoon. Best time to make it, by the way, 4 o'clock.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, isn't it? Because I think we often shy away and we make excuses for ourselves. And we say, "Oh, it's 8 o'clock in the morning and it's too early to call somebody," or "It's 5 o'clock and they're going to be going home." But if you go back in time, when I was in corporate sales, we used to say, "Look, the best time to call a senior executive is at 8 in the morning because it bypasses any of the PAs, EAs, gatekeepers, receptionists, whatever, and they pick up the damn phone."
Rashid, I would actually go in, again, ancient history, but I'd still do it today. Particularly in the country regions, but even in the city. But city's a bit harder because you can't get through the front door because of all the technology there today. But you go knock on the door at 7 o'clock in the morning if you want to do solicitors and accountants, and the senior partner is the first person to work every single time, and they come answer the door. And you're disrupting them because they're reading the Sydney Morning Herald. It's what they do, or the Fin Review. It's what they do when they go get a cup of coffee and they read what's happening for the day. And so I'd do my cold calling when I was wanting to target solicitors and accountants, all right, at 7 o'clock, because the managing partner was the first person to work. That's who I wanted to talk to. No appointment needed. No secretary to bypass and make 10 phone calls. You just walk and knock on the door. It's so easy.
Well, I guess, I guess that still works depending on where you are. If you're in an industrial estate, I mean, we used to have clients. They were a welding company, basically manufacturer of welding equipment, and they used to just go and knock on doors at factories. Yeah. And that worked as long as you wanted to, deal with the technical people. But it doesn't work, of course, if you're going to work with somebody senior in that sort of organization.
Yep.
But here's the thing. Okay, so what are we actually rewarding? Are we rewarding the effort? Because when I talk to call centers, and there's this thing, you've got to make 100 calls a day, and I'm going, you want to make 100 calls a day, you want to be effective. I'd rather you make 20 calls a day and get through to somebody and have a meeting booked than 100 calls just for the sake of making 100 calls. Would you agree, Carl?
Yep.
And so I thought, okay, let me, and I have the same resistance as everybody else. And even though I like talking to people and I will make phone calls. And so I thought, okay, what do I need to do to make this somewhat of a visual for myself? And so what I did was I had these backgammon chips sitting there, haven't played backgammon in donkey's years. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have 5 white ones and say 10 black ones. And the 5 white ones are 5 calls that are actually made to get through to somebody. And they sit on the left side of the desk. And every person I talk to and manage to get through to, I've moved to the right-hand side of the desk. And it's a visual representation. And it's really a trigger to go, oh, okay, there are only 3 of those. I need to make another couple of calls. Okay. And then I look at the black ones, and I must admit, I haven't done that as well, is how many direct messages have I sent through LinkedIn or some other form that is a personalized message, not some automation, and move them from one to the other. And then every night I just move them back again. So it's just, I think sometimes we have to play games with ourselves. All right. So who is using LinkedIn newsletters?
Yep, I do. I do a monthly knowledge piece around campus or graduate recruitment. I think we've got about 1,500 subscribers who obviously not everyone sees it. I think it's about 800 people view it each month, and then I then promote that as well to my user base. So, yeah, I do.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so here's something I noticed. I didn't realize. I had somebody who from the US who's been on our list for a number of years. I know him quite well, and even though I had a LinkedIn newsletter sitting there, I'd never actually used it to send anything out. And then I thought, oh, let me just send this, because I kept getting newsletters from other people. And so I put in what we normally send as an email. It goes out as a normal email anyway to our database. But then I put it in as a LinkedIn newsletter. And all of a sudden, this guy sends me an email saying, oh, you know, great message, etc. And I said, but haven't you been getting all the other ones that I've been sending? Because he used to respond, you know, he'd say something every so often. And I realized that he'd fallen off the list because the list thingy he'd bounced at some point and it had taken him off the list. But the LinkedIn newsletter got delivered to his inbox, as in his actual email. And I thought, here's another mechanism to make sure. So one mechanism that is working, here's another one that could actually get you into their email. And the other beauty of the LinkedIn newsletter versus the LinkedIn newsfeed is the newsletter stays there forever. So somebody would come back years later and still find it and see it. And that gets indexed by Google. So if you are sending a normal newsletter out and you're not using a LinkedIn newsletter, I would suggest put the content on both. You just don't know who's watching, who's reading. And you can also put things like videos into the LinkedIn newsletter. And it doesn't affect the reach, because videos in LinkedIn don't reach as many people as they used to. They keep changing their damn algorithm. So that's just something else to be aware of.
Rashid, can I also just go back briefly to the automation messages through LinkedIn? I tried it once and I didn't like it because I didn't feel it was personalized messages that I was sending out to people. And I'm a regular recipient of those kinds of automated emails, and you can see the same format that everyone uses, well, maybe not everyone, but 90% of people use. And the initial reach out, and the one that I hate the most is say, hey, listen, I'd love to go and learn more about what GradSift does. And it's like, I reply saying, well, go check out the website if you're interested. Through to, I had a guy 4 times, try to contact saying, I haven't heard from you, are you going to reply to my message? And I said, please stop messaging me. Through to, you see the standard 3-step process. And now whenever I see that, it's like, I just like shut off and I kind of hate it. So I guess I'm just making that point that unless you can and they obviously must work because people keep doing it, but unless you can help to personalize them, I think there's a risk of turning potential customers off.
Peter, I definitely agree with you. You do need to understand like the market that you're after and the people that you're trying to approach. The other thing that you may or may not be aware of is that as the technology grows and the AI gets more involved, it's becoming more personalized, that you're able to set up the automations going through. So what you may have had, like say 6 months ago, could be totally different the way that you do it now. Like we've integrated, like most probably everybody has, is a portion of ChatGPT-4 into the automation process so that we can scan their website in order to make it a viable contract or a viable conversation, like, hey, had a look at your website. There's obviously a format that you've got to do. However, at the same time, you can personalize it and you won't know within the next 3 weeks or 6 months whether it's being sent by an individual or whether it's being AI derived and sent to you. Because you got response.io that will send you back an email, and you wouldn't, like, I'm not questioning your intelligence by no stretch of the imagination, but 99% of the people that get that email wouldn't realize that it's been auto responded through AI. So where it is today and where we're going, it's a lot more personal, because the people that are creating the technology have had the exact same feedback. I'm getting shit consistently. It needs to change. And that's why you get people like LinkedIn that keep on changing the algorithm in order to distort that. So what you'll start finding now is at the moment AI, and you integrate, I don't know if you've got ChatGPT 4 yet, but when you start doing that, you'll be able to then draw from one area, put it in, and send out individual messages that are customized to the people in the audience that you're looking for with a bit of background. The problem comes if the AI is too good, and then when you get to speak to that person, you have no idea what the communication is that you've done because you don't have that learning intent. So you got to draw it, like after 3 or 4 or 5 outbounds, you got to draw it back and go, hold on a minute, like, am I going to actually be able to hold the conversation of what an AI is driven to what is actually the expectation of my knowledge in the area that I'm trying to sell them in. So it is a fine line, but I definitely agree with you on that. But it is changing a lot quicker in that landscape due to AI and ChatGPT 4 as well. So that's all changing as well. I just sort of put that in there as well, because I definitely agree. It was very stagnant, like, man, it was almost spam. It was all like throw shit and see what stuck. But it's now becoming a lot more sophisticated in the way that we throw it.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so let me ask this question. Lisa, I'm going to ask you. Okay, so what do you respond to?
Respond with as a user, or as
if somebody sends you a message, what triggers here we go again, versus that's interesting, I might want to further the conversation, because I think okay, so if we look at this as a parallel, you're in a networking function, it's a live function. You meet somebody, you exchange names, hey, how are you, what are you doing here, etc., etc. A little bit about you. You start a conversation. How do you do that in a asynchronous media, which is effectively LinkedIn? And how do people respond, or what would you respond to?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I'm like a lot of people here, receive probably a lot more than I send out. First message I'll ignore. Second message I'll ignore. I'm not being rude. I'm just time poor and I'm busy. And the hi, how are you? I don't know who you are. Why am I interacting with you? If they tell me a bit more about what they do, or offer me an ebook, a lead magnet, something, and then it's the luck. Is that something that's a service I'm actually interested in? Or I'm an accounting firm. I read a lot of things that my clients are interested in. So I'm not the actual buyer, but I do forward that on to my client. And a given my client might sign up to your newsletter, and up to 6 months later, they'll actually be ready for a conversation or a purchase. But what's the differentiator? Something that's real content, and it doesn't have to be customized. And that's why I'm a huge fan of newsletters weekly. If it's monthly, I will forget you. You're not in my brain frequently enough. I will go, oh yeah, I want to talk to that guy from that Zoom meeting from the whatever. Or yeah, I've got the script of the chat of everyone sharing their names. Thank you for that. It's in front of me, so I'll use that as the example. But if you haven't put what you do, the 30-second elevator pitch, I'm not going to actually connect in my brain who you are, what you do, and all the LinkedIn searches in the world, all the email searches in the world, I won't actually find you when I'm ready to buy your product. So that's where I would say, absolutely use automations. I receive them all the time. I'm not offended. I quite enjoy that. But don't be offended on the recipient. Like to Kyle's point, accept quite a number of no's as the salesperson. Don't take that personally, because that's actually natural. They'll reach out when they're ready. But you have to give them multiple channels, multiple mechanisms to reach out to you. Otherwise, when they're ready, they can't find you. And when they're Googling, they might find your competitor, but it's actually your marketing that got them ready to actually purchase the product. So I would actually say content marketing always trumps these general leads and reach outs. And I don't use LinkedIn very much. I'm not a technology savvy person. I've recently put on 2 VAs to actually do most of that for me. I don't mind that. It's time efficient for me. It's a much better system. So I rely on you, potential suppliers, or I'm the customer of your business. You have to navigate through that. Give me a gem of wisdom without giving away your IP for me to then come to you with a specific question. And then I'm a better customer. I'm an educated customer, and I'm more likely to successfully go through your sales process or very quickly be eliminated from your sales process. It's not a qualified lead. And that's a good answer. That's a fast answer. And it still feels like a warm referral. Even though it doesn't have to be face-to-face or a coffee catch-up, which are very time intensive. Everyone still does them. I do them a lot in my business, but I'm trying to move away from that because they're just far too time inefficient. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and especially if people are in different cities and even time zones, it makes it very difficult. Thanks, Lisa. That's really interesting. Okay, so John, give me what do you respond to?
Phone.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I'm not a great user of LinkedIn. I've tried to, and I probably haven't done it particularly well. But I'm like most IT people. I look at people's mailboxes and there's 10,000 emails in there unread, and people are telling me to email market, and I'm going, I don't think so. And then I go to LinkedIn, I see in messages all the time. I think it's a fire hose. So I just try and make it personal, and the best way of doing that is the phone. And Kyle's knocked me over by saying 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. I always would find an excuse not to make a phone call. I'll admit that every day of the week, but he's knocked me for 6 with that. So thank you for that. It was a really good piece.
Yeah. I thought the same thing. I thought, all right, oh God, here we go. Got to take away that excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll share a funny story, guys, just on this with a guy I was training a while ago. A young chap in the mobile division, used to being in the mobile shop, and he wanted to come upstairs and be one of the big boys in the sales department. He said, I don't want to be one of these mobile where customers just walk in all the time and buy a mobile, which is a type of sales, which is sort of like marketing. So he'd come upstairs, and I used to get really frustrated with him because he's one of these neat freaks. When he was finishing work, he'd clean his desk up. It was perfectly clean. And when I watched him, and I made him sit outside my office for a while, he'd have a clean desk at like 4:45. And then by 2 weeks later, it was 4:30. Then it was 4:15. And when I got to 4 o'clock, I started getting cranky. This guy's at 5 o'clock. I said, he's not got enough to do. I also noticed when I watched him that he liked to go into the lunchroom and read the local paper. And at the same time, my web developer was saying, Kyle, we need to sell some more web pages. So I grabbed this guy, Igor, I said, Igor, come and sit with me, buddy. You read the paper every day. I said, yes, I do, Kyle. So do you know that's the best source of leads? I want you to cut out every ad that doesn't have www in it. All right, chemists and all these sort of people. And on Friday at 4 o'clock, because I had this thing about him packing his desk up at 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, I want you to ring, and I'm going to do the script. I'm going to do the first couple of calls for you to make appointments to go see all these people that don't have www the following week. And so he started doing it. All of a sudden, we started selling 1 web page a week, 2 a week, 3 a week. Peter George, who was the web developer, said, Kyle, I need 2 more staff now. You know, this young chap's going really well. About 9 months later, because I moved him away from my desk, he got too noisy. He's too busy on Friday afternoon making his 10 appointments for the week, the following week. Peter George, Kyle, the web pages are dropped off from Igor. And so I went and saw Igor and said, mate, what's going on? Oh, Kyle, it got a bit tough. I got rejected a few times. And I think the market's changed. I said, well, mate, do you want to go back downstairs to mobiles where customers walk in the front door? He said, no, I'll sit down and start making my phone calls again at 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon. Well, guess what? The contact center, the web page sales started coming back through again. All right. So the message to you there is that You just got to find what works, all right? And it doesn't need to be like, I would never suggest to anybody tie yourself to a desk for a whole day or 4 hours or 3 hours or 1 hour, even 1 hour, and do cold calling, because it's not an easy thing to do, all right? But I would suggest to you the easy thing is to do that 15, 20 minutes with a reward at the end, and that's why I picked Friday afternoons, all right? Because you got all week to pick them up, and Friday afternoons is a good way of making phone calls to targeted people, so you can have 3 or 4 extra appointments the following week. Right? Because that's the whole idea of this is to get some appointments to go say hello to people. There you go. Old stories.
Okay, good. All right. So I'll get to the storytelling in a second, which is really interesting. But let's just look at empowerment and what can you control and what can't you control. Okay, the thing you can't control is when someone's going to ring you. Okay, and so you need to be strategic as to how you go about your outbound activities. And you need to look at the ratio of the inbound to the outbound activity. So how much content are you putting out versus how many calls do you actually make? And I use the word call rather than direct message, but you need to do a call, message, SMS. You don't just do one thing to one person. And how many offers do you actually put out? And an offer, as Nicola says, could be just some piece of content. Would you like this? I've got this. It could be interesting for you. Say yes or no. The one thing that has changed over the years is we used to just send out the stuff, as in, hey, I've got these 12 strategies to, improve, to attract as many clients as you want, which is one of the things we have. I would just send it. These days, people don't want stuff to be just sent. They want to be asked. We say, hey, listen, I've got this. Would you like it? And if they say yes, there you go. Okay, so that is a big difference. You need to control your positioning, which is your LinkedIn profile. It really needs to be talking about them and what you do for them rather than you. I'm the greatest, I'm this, I'm that. Well, who cares? Nobody cares about us. They only care about themselves and what they want. And you've got to be committed to the process. I think we've all realized that it takes time, it takes effort, relationships take time, and you're looking for a relationship, not a transaction. So you're not looking for a one-off. You're looking for somebody who is going to work with you over a long period of time, because that is where the profit is, and that's where the ease of the next sale comes. Okay, so coming back to storytelling, and I'll send the link out in the replay. But Barbara found this really interesting site from Columbia University. You want to talk about it? You're on.
Before I do, one way you can make it easier, prepare a content plan and templates. Put in who you're going to call on Monday, Friday at 4 o'clock or whatever it might be. Prepared so you don't have to, then when you actually don't want to do it, have to go look for something or put something up, be it a newsletter or something. If you are prepared, then you already have spent the time. You're sort of more committed to actually following the stuff out that you have. That's one thing we have found makes it a lot easier. Also more strategic. So you can say, for instance, you write a newsletter that is you split up into 3 parts, for instance. So that gives you a 3-week content plan in that regard, and so on and so forth. So that's that. Anyway, how I came across that? Well, we looked. I was Googling what the difference is between, what is it? Negotiation and
persuasion.
That's another video. I'll put both video links into that because it's really interesting. So that was Columbia University.
Columbia University.
Yeah. And then I sort of poked around their website, and they have some really good webinars. And both webinars is about 20 minutes presentation, about 10 minutes of questioning, Q&A. So it's not an extraordinarily long amount of time. Anyway, then I came across about something about storytelling in business or in sales or something like that. And that's what I'm going to put up. So over to you, my friend and husband.
All right. So this fellow was interviewing from Columbia, was interviewing a professor, and she does something along persuasion storytelling. I can't remember exactly what her title was, but a couple of points that really came up, which is really interesting. So did you know that if people who cannot feel emotions cannot make decisions, literally cannot make decisions? This is a very interesting thing. And this came out because there was a UCLA neurologist named Antonio Damasio who noticed that people who had brain surgery or a brain injury where the frontal lobe was affected, some of those patients could no longer make decisions. And this was true even though their cognitive faculties were still intact. They still had the same IQ level. Nothing else had changed, but they could not process emotion and they could no longer make decisions. And as you can imagine, these people's lives were basically falling apart, because you think about it, if you can't make a decision, how do you function? So this is where storytelling comes in, which is really interesting how she brought this in, because stories pierce the veil of skepticism that most of us carry around us. So human beings have told stories from time immemorial, okay? And it's that ability as a business owner or an executive or anybody to tell stories which helps you persuade people to come along on a journey to bypass a lot of the conscious filters that we have. When I studied my NLP trainers training donkeys years ago, we had a huge emphasis on metaphor and storytelling, because the stories we told and the metaphors we used bypassed a lot of conscious resistance and went through the conscious filter, bypassed the conscious filters of somebody's mind, so that they actually effectively pre-formatted to what you wanted to say to them. And so she has this interesting thing, and you'll see it when you watch the video, if you watch the video. And she said every story needs to have an acronym called VOTES. And the VOTE stands for you've got to be vulnerable. So the story has to have an element of your personal vulnerability. It's got to have some obstacle that you've gone through. You've got to have some detail, which is the T. You've got to put some effort into having overcome the obstacles, and there's got to be an element of suspense. And one of the things she really talks about is you have to have an origin story. Now, whether the origin story is for you as the business owner or you as the corporation, there needs to be an origin story. And she goes through a number of examples of that. So it's really worthwhile watching it from that point of view. And one of the examples she gives is Zappos, the shoe people. And so it, very early on, the story goes that some woman sent a message, rang in, whatever, and said, look, I want to return this pair of shoes. My husband has just been killed in a crash, and what do I do? Okay. So the account, the customer service person she spoke to said, look, you don't have to return the shoes. We'll give you your money back. Give the shoes to somebody else that you feel would benefit. You don't have to return them. And he sent her a bouquet of flowers. She then told everybody that she knows about this.
Including during the service.
Including during the funeral service. So you can imagine the effect and that story has now become part of Zappos folklore, which they put up on the wall. So rather than all of these companies that go, our mission is blah, 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 and our values are blah, 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 and nobody actually takes any notice, because there's a big gap between what people say their values are in corporate land and what people actually do. These are the sorts of stories that they put out so that people actually say, okay, this is the ethos and this is the culture. So when you're dealing with a client, somebody new, and you come in and you say, okay, this is my origin story. This is why I got into business. So this is how we came to being. These are the problems that we have to confront, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That can be a really interesting thing to do. So anyone want to talk into that? And we'll send the link.
I'll talk very quickly, Rashid, because I've got to go in 2 minutes. Stories are brilliant. They bring it to life, and I find that I use them with clients and candidates every single day. But because I've got 20 years experience, I can bring a relevant example where it's happened to somebody before and have, the problem that they had, what we did to solve the problem and what the result was, and make that client or that candidate the hero of that particular piece. So it's not about me. I'm merely the guide that takes them from there to there. And stories are much more persuasive rather than some corporate literature about what I do and this is what you get, when it's a story about what has actually happened to somebody else. And people want that because they can resonate with it, particularly if they might know that particular client and go, yeah, actually, I remember there was that particular occasion or whatever, and how you solve that problem. Thank you very much. Great session. I do need to go. And I do love stories. I'm a very emotional person as well. So yeah, I can sell things to me very easily. But thank you very much. See you next time. Cheers.
Thanks, Nicola.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. So one thing I learned donkeys years ago is that every story needs a point and it needs a benefit. So you're not telling a story just for the sake of telling a story. You're telling a story to make a particular point, and there needs to be a particular benefit to the person listening to the story. And the other thing that this woman says, which she says, you got to practice something, which sounds obvious, but you got to practice. You just don't wing story and pull it out of thin air. You've got to know why you're telling this particular story at this particular juncture, and you've got to know exactly how you're going to go about telling the story so that you don't waffle, and exactly what point you want to get across. All right.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
And when you say practice, you mean speak out loud.
Yes, you can't do it in your head.
Okay. That's one of the tricks. And we have a mentor of ours who says he's got the best educated dashboard, our dashboard, because he talked out loud while he's driving and going anywhere, and realizes how, so that's one way of speaking out loud, nobody hearing you.
All right.
The other thing that needs to do is actually project a mental picture for that person to follow when the story is being told. They need to be part of that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So Richard Drive, right? Richard Glover, ABC Drive in Sydney. Okay. So one of his promos recently said he loves radio because of the pictures it creates. And when you think about it, if you're looking at a movie, you're seeing what somebody else created. If you're reading a book, you're creating the picture in your own head. And that is a very different experience. And so you allow people to create the pictures on their heads. Anyway, look, we've only got a few more minutes, so we may wrap this up early, but I'm just going to go around the room and ask what you got out of today and what you will take away and what you might do differently, and invite you to the next one. So, Wilson, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, it was actually a really good discussion. I mean, the couple of things that, I've always known about LinkedIn automation, haven't really used it, was, I guess, tempted to use it for now, so I might give it a go. Response.io was from what Michael mentioned, was a great heads up, because I was thinking about, is there an AI equivalent to responses and stuff as well? And I think, I haven't done any lead generation or I guess getting on the phone to make cold calls and stuff. And as everyone's mentioned, I always make an excuse. I was like, I get enough work through referrals and stuff, and I'm growing my business quite well in that regards. But I guess I'm setting myself up right now as well, because I know I'm applying for awards, winning awards, growing my network in that regard. So I think the next gradual step is I actually have to get on the phone and make some calls and grow that business that way as well. So yeah, it was actually quite helpful. I do make excuses, and I think I will have to put in the half an hour to an hour each week just to get on the phone. And even I might just start with just calling old and existing clients and seeing how they are, and we finish projects with them and see if we can continue to find new projects with them as well, and just ease into it to get going.
Yeah, it's really important to go back to our clients, because you never know what's there. We've got clients who called old clients and won very significant projects, and the client says, we'd completely forgotten about you. It's been 3 years and we're just about to do this thing. Okay. And there have been a number of instances where that happened. So call old clients.
Yeah,
Kyle.
I think that's good stuff for me.
Mr. Page, how are you going?
Sorry. No, I just enjoy everybody's company. I've listened to Michael, what he's talked about there. I've Googled that to see what that's all about. I'm not the person that does it, so I'm going to be dumb enough to go to my marketing people and have you tried this? And they're going to say yes, probably. So I'm going to be very careful sometimes because I'm not the smartest person in the room when it comes to all the different technologies. I have the fortune of being able to employ people that do those things much better than I do. So, but enjoyed everybody's company.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thanks, Rashid. Look, my takeaway for today is probably around storytelling, really. It's something that I haven't really done much of. And when I think back, in all my years now in IT, it's nearly coming up to 25 years, the start of my career, I had a mentor who pretty much every interaction I had with him, he told a story. And they were quite profound stories every time, and he sucked me in every time with his storytelling. And I look back and I still remember many of those stories, even 20 years later, that they had an impact on the way I approached things and did things. So I think you're right. There's probably something there for me. I think, look, I probably agree with Lisa around the LinkedIn and the calling and that sort of stuff. I'm the kind of person that just blocks everyone that tries to call me unless I know them and have a reasonably strong relationship, because I must have 20 or 30 people reach out to me every day, whether it's on LinkedIn, on the phone, via email, whichever method. For me, it's just too overwhelming to deal with all that. So I just pretty much block it all. And then I guess I agree again with what Kyle said around you've got to do what works for you. And we found things that have worked for us over the years, and we're really sticking to those. And so, yeah, I think, it's been really good hearing the different perspectives today.
Okay, thanks, Nathan. So that reminds me of a young lady that I used to, I was her boss, and we'd have lunch occasionally, and I'd tell her stories about things. And what was really funny was that, months later, sometimes she would suddenly say, "Now I know why you were telling me that story."
100%. Yeah, they definitely have an impact.
Yeah. Stephen.
Yeah, look, it's always great listening to everyone. We do a bit of automation, but the LinkedIn newsletter sounds like something that potentially is worth our while. Kyle, unfortunately, I can't do 4 o'clock calls. I've always got a scotch in my hand, so it won't be a good thing. But I will find someone to do that for me.
Fair enough. Frank. Frank?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear you call my name. Look, no, good session. We do use LinkedIn, not so much with automation, so that's an area I certainly will look into, but we tend to create company-related posts, which is content-related, so access to specific content that we think might be of interest to people rather than just pushing products and things of that nature. And then we filter that through our own individual LinkedIn pages. So that's one way that we typically use LinkedIn. So I thought, looking at automation was a nice tip. The 4 o'clock call, I must admit, I've always avoided the 4 o'clock call, thinking people are drinking scotch and beers and therefore don't want to be pestered by a sales guy, but certainly give it a go and see what happens. Wanted to come back to, I guess, Kyle's note about the face-to-face. I'm a strong believer of face-to-face as well. The one challenge we're finding today really is basically getting hold of people to meet face-to-face. A lot of people tend to go into the office maybe 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week. And when they're there, they just don't want to be interrupted by salespeople. So that's the biggest challenge we're seeing today in terms of generating a lot of face-to-face meetings, which does put a bit of a hindrance. So we always do revert back to this sort of media as well. But yeah, certainly if anyone's got any tidbits on how to resolve that one, be a good one to hear from you. What else? There's a lot of other good stuff. The LinkedIn newsletter, certainly look into that. And yeah, the storytelling. I think that's a good one, Richard. I think storytelling is a good way to try and present, and that's one thing that we've tried as well to change our style, particularly when we're presenting to people, to tell a story rather than just to present. So it was a good session. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, how about you?
Okay. First of all, I need to make a confession that we do very little or no marketing. So this was very educational for me today. Most of our business is through our relationships and referrals. So we've had little, I won't say little need for marketing. Obviously you need to do marketing, but it hasn't been, it's something that I've known I've had to do. And this has been very educational for me today. So took lots and lots of notes up there. So I'll be looking into some of these things. But like I said, I haven't been doing a great deal in the past, and always acknowledge that need to do more, or some, not more, just doing some marketing. So thanks for everyone sharing their stories and some of the products they use and what have you. Greatly appreciated, and took lots of notes.
Thanks, Michael. I'm Michael Flaherty.
It was great coming for the first time. I think Nathan summarized it was probably the best, is that not everything's for everybody, and you choose what you enjoy doing and you do that well. And if you don't want to sit there at 4 o'clock, don't. Life's for living, and there's more to life than just work. So just balance it. If you can automate it, do it. If it's not for you, don't. And just choose your own vertical and just enjoy everything you do. So I've enjoyed today. It's been great. And I thank you for your time and listening to my accent. It can be, 10 years ago, it was all right when Tony Gregg was doing the cricket, but it grows on people. So look, I appreciate everybody's time. Have a fantastic day. I'm sure all of you will hit your goals. If any of you need any assistance on any of the products that I've sent, I'm more than happy to assist you. And look, just stay safe out there. And if people don't want to meet you, that's their problem, not yours. You're never the problem. It's generally somebody else. But thank you very much. It's been fantastic.
Thanks, Michael. And Nobby.
I came in late, so obviously you were talking about LinkedIn and automation. I recently came across a guy who's really switched on in automation and LinkedIn, so I've been following him a bit there. And I use LinkedIn more for perhaps putting my product and ideas in front of people. When it comes to talking about the product, I'd rather be in front of them personally. Recently, I attended a breakfast and a lunch, and out of both of those, I got bank managers saying to me, we want to talk to you about what you do and do some cross marketing. So being in front of people makes life a lot easier. When I used to be in automotive spare parts sales, I used to go as a sales rep. I used to go to all the different stores and I'd meet the owners and I'd do the sales that way. When I transitioned into life insurance, I was given a phone book and told, make 40 phone calls and you don't leave until they're all done. And that was one of the hardest things ever. But I found that if I looked forward to getting those yeses, every phone call was a step forward. And that was the important thing for me. So I'm from the old school, like sort of Kyle. And I prefer to be in front of people, not putting my feet under the table anymore. I'm past that. But going to employers and talking about their employee financial wellness programs, perhaps. And then doing presentations or those sorts of things. I'm comfortable with that sort of thing. So, as has been said, whatever works for you.
Yeah, and always remember, delivery is a strategy, which is a very good sales strategy, because if you're delivering well, there's always opportunity. If the either maybe they need something else, or maybe there are other divisions. If it's a larger company, that you can target, and you can say to the person you're working with, hey, listen, can you introduce me to somebody? Can you introduce me to this person? But the key is, and don't say somebody, say identify the person and say, can you introduce me to that person? Because the minute you say somebody, it becomes an amorphous mess. And people go, I have no idea who I'm supposed to be introducing you to. Okay. And obviously, if you're delivering, the lifetime value and the profitability goes up. Okay, so the next session is going to be, we're running these on the 3rd Thursday of the month. So the next one, according to my calendar, is April the 20th. So if you want to put that in your diary, I will, of course, send out invitations, etc. So that is it from me, unless anyone wants to say anything else.
Yeah, just a quick one for Frank. Obviously, meeting people face to face and at their offices is always a pain in the bum. But I've found that what I've done now, and I'm fortunate that I've joined a couple of different clubs. For example, like I was fortunate to become a member of the Kelvin Club in Melbourne and also Sandringham Yacht Club. I don't have a boat, but I'm a member of the yacht club. But the great thing there is that, you know, when you, everyone is so used to people going, oh, I'll come to your office. I tend to go, look, I'm a member of the Kelvin Club. Have you ever been there? No, come on down, meet me there. We'll have a discussion there. And it's an old 1800s building with wood panel walls, wooden bar, wooden table, leather couches. You know, there used to be the old cigars and scotches and do business there. And people actually feel quite, oh, wow, what a wonderful place. And it gives you a bit more of a sort of an avenue to have a chat with them. And then, you know, potentially, would you like to be a member? I'm happy to nominate you. And then they're sort of like, oh, let's do business. Yeah, you know, it tends to sort of help when you take them somewhere else, I find.
That's very good.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. Yeah, like that. I mean, we've often suggested, you know, and I've suggested this to my guys as well, you know, it doesn't have to be in their office. It doesn't have to be on the day they're in their office. You know, volunteer to meet them out somewhere near where they live. Some people are okay with that. Some people, I think, like to not let you know where they live type thing. So
look, we've got a lot of clients in the CBD and the Kelvin Clubs in the CBD, and those people that we have that are sort of St Kilda, Brighton clients, we go, come to Sandringham Yacht Club. We can just sit there and look out on the bay, and you know, if you've got a beautiful day, you got boats going, you got, I know it sounds cliche, but you know, scantily dressed people on boats, and they're happy.
Stephen, I really like this idea because you take them somewhere else.
Yeah.
Not just a cafe, a coffee shop around the corner, or in a Westfield, or whatever it might be.
And it's not another serviced office.
That's right.
You know.
No, it's something totally off center, which no one really sort of, oh, what's this Kelvin Club? You know, oh, it's an 1800-year-old men's club, not a strip men's club. Do you want to come down? You know, and they're like, oh, you know, and there's pool tables and there's pictures of the Queen, and you know, the old guys with long white beards, all the Anglo-Saxons, and they go, do you allow women in here? Oh yes, we've got women members as well. Oh, okay, cool, not a problem. You know, so it creates a whole new vibe and a whole new atmosphere for people. And I've had several meetings there, which, you know, I've just gone, look, just sign here. We'll deal with the rest later. Go to the bar, put it on my tab, you know, and it works.
Okay, all right, great advice. Anyway, it is 10 o'clock. So thank you, everybody. And no doubt we will see each other in a month. Thanks. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sure, Ackland Street's still a good place to meet.